bootleggers, mobsters, and the shady side of Hamilton 100 years ago. That was Rocco Perri's world as he built a fortune rum running in Prohibition-era Southern Ontario.
Hey guys, in today's video we'll be talking about a criminal couple from the early 20th century who came from humble beginnings but would go on to build a major criminal empire in Hamilton, Ontario during the Prohibition years. Bessie Starkman and Rocco Perri are sometimes compared to America's Bonnie and Clyde. However, in truth, they were much more sophisticated business minds and much less violent. They ran a criminal enterprise reaching across borders and became household names in Canada. Let's get into it. Rocco Perri was born in 1887 in the Calabria region of Italy. He moved to the United States at the age of 16 with fake paperwork and lied to the customs agents about meeting his family in the US. For the next 4 years, Rocco worked in New York as a laborer and moved to Northern Ontario at the age of 20 years old. Rocco's first criminal activities were with Black Hand extortion organizations in Northern Ontario. In 1912, he hired a man named Alfredo to burn down the house of a rich Italian family who had refused to pay extortion money. Alfredo got caught, and sensing police action against him, Rocco ran off to Toronto. It was in Toronto that Rocco met Bessia Tobin, who was a Polish immigrant born in 1890. She was married and had 2 daughters with Harry Tobin. Rocco lived in Bessia's family home as a paying guest, but would soon start having an affair with Bessia. Just 3 months later, Bessia became Bessie Starkman, who left her husband, children, and her Jewish faith to run away with Rocco. The couple first moved to St. Catharines and then to Hamilton, where they opened up a small bakery from their home. However, the bakery was just a front for illegal businesses happening in the back of the house. Bessie and Rocco were running a brothel and gambling racket from their home, and it soon landed Bessie in trouble. In March 1917, she was charged with keeping a disorderly house, but she denied all allegations and maintained that she was unaware of the activities of her tenants. Meanwhile, the couple's betting business became more and more successful, and soon Rocco hired people to act as its agents and as strongmen for recovering gambling debts. Rocco made important connections through his gambling enterprise, and soon moved on to a much more lucrative legal business. The late 19th century and early 20th century was a time when prohibition of liquor was making waves across North America. Canada had already passed the Canada Temperance Act, giving provinces the power to enact prohibition. Ontario officially passed a bill prohibiting liquor in late 1916. This made possession of liquor and beer outside the home illegal. Bars and liquor stores were closed, and the only place with legal alcohol was Quebec. Starkman and Perri saw that they could make much more money from bootlegging than from their small-time illegal activities. They entered the bootlegging business by buying mail-order liquor from Montreal and selling it from the back of their house for 50 cents a glass. Through his prior illegal activities, Rocco had formed a small gang, mostly made up of Calabrians. He had the network of men they needed for distribution and enforcement, but it was Bessie who had the business sense to grow their enterprise. She advised Rocco on his business deals, kept the records of orders coming in and going out, and encouraged Rocco to expand. Most importantly, she was the only one in Rocco's gang that he could blindly trust. Bessie also knew the English language better and could close deals that Rocco couldn't. With Rocco's street power and Bessie's quick wits, the couple became an instant success in the bootlegging business. Soon, they were not just ordering liquor for their own customers, but even hotels and bars that were losing money because of the prohibition. Seeing the success, Rocco expanded further. He stayed away for weeks at a time, using his cover as a macaroni salesman to travel around the Great Lakes areas, making valuable connections along the way. He started moving beer and liquor by boat shortly thereafter. The United States adopted prohibition in January 1920. By now, Rocco and Bessie had established themselves as prominent rum runners and were well placed to profit massively from prohibition across the border. They had enough boats to transport the liquor, had valuable connections with large breweries and distilleries, and had a lot of money to bribe customs agents. By 1922, Perri and Bessie were moving more than 1,000 cases of liquor a day and bringing in about $400,000 each month. However, this was just a start. That same year, Perri's status as the biggest bootlegger in the country was strengthened even further after the killings of his direct rivals. Dominique Scaroni was head of a cross-border booze manufacturing and running operation. Just like Bessie and Rocco, Dominique and his brother, Joe, operated their business from southern Ontario. On May 11, 1922, Dominique Scaroni was killed after a meeting with organized crime figures in Niagara Falls, New York. Before leaving for his meeting in the US, Dominique had met with Rocco in Ontario, which gave rise to the speculation that his murder was set up by Rocco Perri. Just 4 months after Dominique's killing, his brother Joe suffered the same fate. He was killed on September 4th after being driven to a bakery by known associates of Rocco Perri. Even though there was a lot of speculation, no evidence was found of Rocco's direct involvement in these crimes. On the business side, the couple kept expanding and formed an alliance with the Sirianni crime family to keep the Ontario market out of bigger crime families from New York. By 1924, there were more than 1,500 secret drinking clubs in Hamilton alone, and much of the needed supply was coming from the Perris. They also controlled the supply to the United States and had some big-time customers like Joseph Kennedy and Al Capone. The couple were now making over $1 million a month and weren't shy of being in the public eye. Bessie openly displayed her love for expensive clothes and shiny jewels, while Rocco was always willing to give interviews to the local press. In one such interview in 1924, Rocco was asked about the recent murders of his direct rivals, to which he responded, "While I admit I am the king of the bootleggers, I can assure you that I had nothing to do with these deaths. I only give men fast cars and I sell only the best liquor, so I don't see why anyone should complain, for no one wants prohibition." From this moment on, Rocco was widely regarded as the king of bootleggers. Rocco was right. No one wanted prohibition. Bootlegging business was rising and rising, and to halt this progress, the Canadian government had a radical idea. They ordered factories to add poisonous methanol and kerosene to industrial alcohol, which made it dangerous to consume. On July 17, 1926, this poisonous alcohol made its way to the customers through bootlegging, and 44 people were dead within 2 weeks. There was a massive public reaction, and by 1927, the Prohibition Act was repealed. Police also moved against known bootleggers more seriously and made some arrests. However, Bessie and Rocco's cover as macaroni salesmen worked well, and nothing concrete was found to tie them to any crime. Instead, they were questioned by the Federal Royal Commission on Customs and Excise over the massive increase in their assets and tax evasion during the last decade. During cross-examination, the couple was also asked about their bootlegging empire, but denied any connections to the business. However, Rocco was found guilty of perjury and was jailed for 6 months after a plea bargain. On the outside, Bessie was now head of operations, but with prohibition no longer in place, there was little profit in the bootlegging business. She was ambitious and started expanding into the narcotics trade. Unlike bootlegging, narcotics smuggling was much more dangerous, and even though it was profitable, it was much less acceptable to society. Bessie's way of doing business was also different from Rocco's, as she was unwilling to make compromises with the police or be friendly with the lower gang members. When Rocco got out of prison, the business had changed. Bootlegging business was difficult to continue because the US Coast Guard had begun patrolling the waterways between Canada and the United States more seriously, while Bessie had more influence because she was pulling in more profit from drug smuggling. In June of 1930, the Canadian government officially made it illegal to export liquor to countries that were under prohibition, so that loophole no longer protected any bootleggers. With the new laws, most of the smaller players in bootlegging either retired or were caught, leaving only a few big players left. Some members of the Perri organization suggested to Rocco that they should leave the dangerous narcotics trade and go back to bootlegging. They thought it would be easier now with old connections and less competition. Rocco wanted to take that advice, but Bessie was in opposition, as she was the one who had built that business from the ground up. The division between the couple was apparent, and that allowed the police and the rivals to move against them. First, there was a robbery, when several men broke into their house, forced Rocco and Bessie into the basement, and robbed them of more than $10,000. A few days later, the police also seized a major shipment of bootleg whiskey, which Rocco himself was driving. Rocco avoided the arrest only because he had always kept a good relationship with the police. Unlike Bessie, he believed that police were an asset and that thinking came in handy. However, the couple's luck ran out in August 1930, when they were ambushed outside their house when returning from a party. Rocco was unharmed in the attack, but Bessie Starkman died on the spot. No one was ever tried for the crime, and to this day there is no known motive for the killing. Some thought that the shooting was originally aimed for Rocco, while another rumor suggests that Rocco was behind the murder as he wanted control of the gang. Bessie's funeral on August 17th was one of the biggest in Hamilton's history. It attracted more than 10,000 people who were fascinated by the couple's luxury lifestyle and their stature in Hamilton. Rocco's empire quickly declined after the death of Bessie Starkman. He struggled to keep his business contacts and couldn't take care of business operations on his own. 3 years after the death of Bessie, Rocco found another sharp woman in Annie Newman. She was a business-minded person just like Bessie and helped Rocco revive the fortunes of his gang. The new couple got back into bootlegging, smuggling, and other criminal activities. However, their time together was cut short by Rocco's personal troubles. In 1938, there were 2 attempts on Rocco's life. On March 20th, his Bay Street home was destroyed by dynamite, however, he was out of the house at the time. 8 months later, his new sedan blew up, but Rocco escaped serious injuries yet again. With growing threats to his life, Rocco moved to Toronto, but his freedom was short-lived. In 1940, the Canadian authorities regarded Italian immigrants as potential enemies, as they were suspected of having connections with Italian fascist Benito Mussolini. Rocco and his brother, Mike Perri, were arrested and sent to an internment camp where they stayed for 3 years before being released in 1943. In the meantime, Annie Newman was sent to prison on a gold smuggling conviction. Rocco went back to Hamilton the next year to visit a cousin. On April 23, 1944, he complained of a headache and went out for a walk to clear his head. However, he did not return and was never seen again. At the time, it was believed that he was killed by rival mobsters, as he might have been trying to re-establish his old links in the criminal underworld. The most popular theory about his disappearance is that Rocco now sleeps with the fishes in a cement-filled barrel at the bottom of Hamilton Harbor. However, the search for Rocco's true end went on. In 1992, mafia expert Antonio Nicasso shared a letter given to him by one of Rocco's cousins in Italy. It was allegedly written by Rocco Perri in 1949, 5 years after his disappearance. In this letter, Rocco is alleged to have informed his cousin of his well-being. "Dear cousin, with this letter, I will tell you I am in good health. Let them know I'm fine if you've heard the news." His cousin also claimed that Perri escaped his mob life and went on to live a quiet life in New York, where he died in 1953. Bessie Starkman and Rocco Perri lived a life on the other side of the law. They made millions in the process and even earned the respect of the communities they lived in. To this day, they are treated as legends in some parts of Ontario, and their story continues to fascinate audiences 8 decades after its end. As always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. Also comment down below on what you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching and have a good one.